A sea of people leaving a funeral for a child, and another sea of people waiting at the side of the church trying to get in for the next funeral.
And I was sad for her because that was my favorite teacher.
Her infectious smile, her laugh, she was just a beautiful person.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French. We have more funerals, sadly, to report today as the heartbreak continues in Newtown. A search for solutions with more questions than answers as more parents bury their children. We will dedicate this program to the tragedy and the unfolding questions that emerge out of Newtown, and we'll also be bringing on an expert about school safety, as many of us parents here worry and have concerns about our own children's safety. We'll be talking about that as well. But first, I want to bring in our own Andrew Whitman, who has the latest from that grief-stricken Connecticut town. Andrew?
Well, Rich, more victims were laid to rest today. Some young children, other heroes who tried to save those children. All the while, a growing chorus questioning what can be done to try and prevent another Newtown massacre.
Calling the massacre in Sandy Hook a wake-up call, President Obama said it's time to reinstate the assault weapons ban while also creating a new task force.
We won't prevent them all, but that can't be an excuse not to try. It won't be easy, but that can't be an excuse not to try.
Vice President Joe Biden will lead the new group, which will give their recommendations to the president by January. Meanwhile, at St. Rose of Lima Church, yet another funeral of a young victim.
Our son had so much love to give to this world, and he was supposed to have a whole lifetime of bringing that light to the world.
After one somber funeral, mourners packed the pews again, this time to remember 6-year-old Caroline Praviti. Her parents say she, quote, was a blessing from God and brought joy to everyone she touched. And throughout the area today, 4 more farewells for Charlotte Bacon, Chase Kowalski, Sandy Hook principal Don Hochsprung, and 27-year-old Victoria Soto.
And when classes do eventually resume for Sandy Hook students at a nearby school in January, the students will be greeted by retired principal Donna Page, who will be returning to her old post. Rich.
Thank you very much, Andrew. We're going to get into a lot of the outstanding questions and where this debate goes from here in America, and that school safety issue. But first, I wanted to give you an idea about some of the changes already that we're starting to see since this tragedy has unfolded. Mass killings, as we all know, they've become an almost annual event in modern America. And after each tragedy, we hear the often empty rhetoric of, we can do better. After Newtown, however, I believe for the first time in a long time, we will. Yes, the president seems genuine and his words moving, but it's some of the immediate actions from some of the unlikeliest of sources that tells me that this time will be different. In Michigan, Republican and pro-gun Governor Rick Snyder, on Monday, he vetoed a bill that would have allowed guns in schools, churches, daycare centers, and stadiums. A Republican governor said no to all of those. In California this week, the legislature getting ready to pass background checks for ammo buyers, to ban quick reload devices, require gun locks, and making every gun owner renew their license every year. In D.C., former pro-gun lawmakers with NRA support, they have changed their tune since Newtown, and they are ready to vote for restrictions. And it's not just the politicians. Clergy, they have come out in large numbers in protest of our gun culture, and they pray as a group that things would change. Doctors and surgeons, they are speaking out, demanding action after seeing gunshot victims even younger than the Newtown children, some shot before they were even born.
I had a woman who was 8 months pregnant who was shot in her uterus and her brain.
We need to bring the survivors of gun violence to the table. We need to hear their perspectives, their opinions.
Police chiefs and mayors, they've broken their silence. Law enforcement tired of encountering criminals with body armor and outgunning their cops, and 750 mayors coast to coast signing a petition and a letter to the president calling for background checks on all gun sales, a ban on assault weapons, a ban on high-capacity magazines, and making gun trafficking an enforceable crime. And regular people are signing up too. The Daily News call to action that many of you might have seen on the Tuesday newsstands has already gotten tens of thousands of readers to endorse the same measures. But maybe as important as political and public pressure, this tragedy is making businesses think twice if the gun business is how they want to make their money. This week, the private equity firm that owns the Bushmaster, that's the manufacturer of the assault rifle used in the Newtown killings, well, they said they are for sale. Cerebus's founder, who's an avid hunter and no liberal softy, he said, quote, "The Sandy Hook tragedy is a watershed event." He, of course, is right. But while sporting good companies like Dick's pull semi-automatic rifles from their shelves, there are contrasting images that make it clear that this movement will have a fight on its hands. Since the massacre this past Friday, gun stores have seen a spike in sales. You heard me correctly. Guess what the hottest selling item is? If you said assault weapons, especially the AR-15 used in Newtown, sadly, you would be correct. Shoppers apparently feel they have to stock up while they can. And to understand the folks who brought these holiday stocking stuffers to a store near you, just look at the ad campaign that they were running at the time of the shooting. These are unbelievable images. Consider your man card reissued comes from the brave folks at the Bushmaster. And the NRA, who will break their silence this Friday, they weren't much better. This was their Facebook page, again, the morning of the shooting. America's original Homeland Security. What kind of message is that for their folks? The gun lobby, for their part, has signaled that they will fight tooth and nail with restrictions, even with public sympathy strongly against them, and even with all the tiny caskets in Sandy Hook. This tone deafness clearly has its supporters, though. I want you to listen for a second to Texas Republican Congressman Louis Gohmert.
Every mass killing of more than 3 people in recent history has been in a place where guns were prohibited. These guns, except for one, I wish to God she had had an M4 in her office locked up, so when she heard gunfire, she pulls it out, and she didn't have to lunge heroically with nothing in her hands, but she takes him out, takes his head off before he can kill those precious kids.
His sentiment apparently shared by a few other lawmakers who believe we arm the teachers, we arm the lunch lady, we arm the crossing guard, guns everywhere, no checks, no balances. Suffice to say, I don't agree with that. But maybe the most shocking image to tell us that this will be a debate this country is long overdue and one that cannot be postponed was a story I saw this week out of Utah. An 11-year-old boy was found in school with a gun and magazine clips. When asked why, it wasn't because he wanted, in some fit of rage, to kill an aggressor or to shoot a schoolmate that had tormented him. It's because he wanted to be ready in case another bad man like the one in Newtown came to his school. This is what we're up against. And every day, tens of Americans die by gun. And every day, we say we can do better. Hopefully, for that kid in Utah, the 20 in Newtown, Connecticut, now is the time that we do. We'll be right back, everyone. Please stay with us.